March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to call the City Council meeting to order. Please join me in the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, so all council members are present with the exception of Council Ort, who is in the building. She just in the back lobby for a minute. So we'll have her join us shortly. Is there any announcements or additions to the agenda? No? Any declarations of ex-party contact, conflict of interest, bias, etc.? No? Opportunity for public comment, and I have two public comments here, and I either can have you guys talk to them right now or we can wait to the agenda item. Adam? Okay. Mike, want to wait? Okay, so we'll do that. Any other agenda or public comment outside of those two items for the agenda? Doesn't sound like it. Move on. Consent agenda for March 3rd, 2025 City Council regular session minutes. Council? Has anyone read it?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Patty. I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented to us.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0 with Councilor Ort absent. No presentations tonight, correct? No public hearing. That leads us to general business, which is resolution number 25-008, adopting council's 26-28 council goals. Julia?
Thank you. As you recall, on February 8th, we had a almost full day, it felt like a full day, retreat goal setting where we went through, looked at the current situation, the environment, what we had accomplished through the last goal setting, and then set goals for the next coming budget year or budget cycle, which is going to be 2026 to 2028. We did make some modifications, but not significant modifications. So what is in front of you is a recap report from the consultants that helped facilitate the presentation, and beginning on page 15 of the report and 23 of your packet is the beginning of the goals, starting with the goal 1, infrastructure, and then there were specific objectives that you identified, and then staff started the process of identifying the lead and the proposed timeline for those. Those are subject to some discussion. Really what you're looking at and being asked to vote on is the goals and the objectives at this time. Certainly you can provide input on the timeline, but that may change over the course of the next 2 years. I do want to highlight that within this, the report itself, the consultant proposed a council vision and some values, and that was based on the discussion and what had transpired during the day. I'd like to explore that a little bit more in work session with council, so I'm not asking that be really you're adopting the goals. You're not adopting the goals and the value statements, but I want to kind of explore that a little bit more going forward in the coming months or year to land on that, rather than there was some discussion about the vision statement and going through a visioning process. Even if we don't have the funds or time or resources to do that, I think having a vision statement is good, and what they proposed, I think you guys would all generally support, but I don't want to ask you to just adopt something that you didn't discuss. So with that, I would recommend approving the resolution. I know that Mayor Quigley noted that there are a few grammatical errors within the report itself. We can go through all of those if you want, or we can just say fix the grammatical errors, because really the meat of what you're adopting is the goals themselves.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thanks, Julia. I do have one question. Are you going to is there going to be any type of survey to the council about the success and or feelings of the goal session?
There was not anything specifically planned, but we have discussed getting that feedback. I think that would be helpful.
Yep, sounds good.
Yep.
Okay, there's another opportunity for public comment specifically about the council goals. Doesn't look like there's any. Council discussion. What would council like to do?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ort?
I just want to make a comment that I really enjoyed spending this time with the council to just reconnect and go over the goals that we had previously, where we were, what we've accomplished, and even just spend time with our city team as well. I don't have very good words today, but I think it was a good process, and I'm happy with what we have for right now.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Council?
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just want to ditto everything Councilor Ort just said. I totally agree. It also kind of, every time we do this, get together and have a longer session like this, it always makes me appreciate more the challenges that you as staff are all up against. And I just want to say thank you for listening to us and giving serious thought to the things that we were saying and formulating these goals. I just appreciate you guys for that. And thank you for giving up a Saturday. Appreciate it.
I do have a question, Ms. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilor Ort.
So you're saying, so this resolution is just adopting the goals, and we will revisit the vision? Okay.
Correct.
Then, Mr. Mayor, where am I? Hold on. I want to make a motion, am I on the right page? To approve Resolution 25-008, adopting the council goals for 2026-2028.
Seconded.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 25-008, adopting council's goals for 2026-2028. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Leads us to resolution number 25-009, adopting fees, charges, and rates, and repealing resolution number 1112. Mr. Brand.
Good evening, Council. For the record, James Brand, City's Finance Director. I think this is the third time I've done this one. It's almost been 2 years here, but I think this is the third annual fee schedule update. So every year we do a recalculation of some of the fees to make sure they're appropriate with the cost to the city, considering inflation and personnel material costs. And so this fee schedule covers most of the city's fees, including everything on the utility bills, as well as many optional services the city provides. It covers each department of the city, so it's a pretty comprehensive list. We've added some color coding this year to help differentiate what changed from the previous year. So that's in the footer of the document, signifying which rates changed, which ones are new, and which ones are just new to the schedule. We've been charging them before, but they just weren't published on the schedule, so we've added those. And then there's a few fees that we're not charging currently, but we've talked about that previously, and we are in the works to charge most of those. These rates will be used to calculate the city's revenues for the next budget cycle beginning in July. So these fees will become effective July 1st, and they are being used to construct the budget. Just highlighting a few of the changes. The rates for the pool, again, we increased them across the board by 5%. And there's a little bit of manipulation in there as well for the non-resident fees. They are typically about 40% more than the resident fees. This is, again, just trying to move the pool toward a little bit more self-sustaining financially. The utility rates are, again, based on the utility rate study approved by council in February of 2024. So modest increases for most of those rates. However, the street fee was left unchanged in recognition of the increase that went into effect in January. I do recommend that in light of the discussion we just had at the work session, this resolution be amended to remove the sidewalk vendor license as we discussed the last hour. So the schedule is there, and I'll end my speaking and invite public comment and questions from the council.
Thanks, James. There's an opportunity for public comment on resolution number 25009 on the fees, charges, and rates. Go ahead, John. Come on up.
John Mesa, 427 North 3rd Avenue. I just wanted to make a comment about the fees. Julie and I are trying to get an appointment together to discuss how these fees work, and my public comment was on that. We're going to have a color code on what the fees are that are increasing, what's changing. However, the public doesn't receive that same type of information. So all I'm saying is, and asking council for, is that the public, us, that are receiving that, we do not understand our fee structure currently. I am putting together a committee of people to go over this and work on this, and working with the public directly to bring that before council to let you know that we need to have a better system for the public, the everyday person that's paying these fees, to understand them better, because we do not understand these fees right now. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Anybody else? All right. James, I have a question for you. What's the total percentage of the fee schedule that have increases here or additional new fees?
That's, if you want a calculation of the number of fees and not the dollar of fees.
That was my second portion, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, all of the pool fees are increased, so that's across the board. The utility rates, the wastewater fees are increased per the schedule. The water fees increased, not the per gallon, not the water usage fees, but the flat fees have increased 3%. Wastewater up 3%. Stormwater up 3%. Sorry, not wastewater. That I don't have the percent for that. Most of the other fees stayed the same. There were some fee changes in the community and economic development where they've kind of changed a little bit of philosophy from a deposit structure to a fee structure, and just added a lot more clarity and options for the different planning commission decision.
Okay. I guess what I'm getting at is when I look at this, and it is color-coded, this entire document has color pretty much everywhere, and so I would like the council to consider having a pretty robust discussion about this, to Mr. Mesa's point about having really transparency in what is taking place with the increase in these fees. So I think our community deserves that, and that's my 2 cents to the council.
Yeah, Brian. I agree with what you say. This is just a lot of changes just unloaded on us relatively quickly, and I just don't have enough information to make a decision on this today. So I'd just like more time to digest, as you said, Brian.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Tim?
Yeah, same for me. It's a little overwhelming to me, too, and I can't imagine if you're trying to pay these fees, but I almost want to go line by line through all the changes in the fees and kind of discuss them. You know, I know it takes a while, but I think it's a fair thing to do because, you know, some of these fees I don't even know if it's fair. Or for community and economic development, there's a lot of new fees that seems quite large, and we got pink color coding in here that I can't figure out, so I'm not sure where that came from. But yeah, I'd like to maybe spend a little more time.
So I can speak to the community and economic development because really, I guess, the first 4 pages, there's not really much color at all, but when you get into the community and economic development, there's a lot of orange, which is a new fee, and that's where currently there is a deposit, and the challenge is that it takes a lot of staff time to track the amount of time. There's an accuracy, question of accuracy of whether or not we are. And then historically, what Jennifer has found is that and this was before her time, but we would give money back, but we would never invoice for more, even if we went over. And so it just, and most places charge a fee. So it will be much easier for staff. There won't be an accounting piece. There won't be a missing piece where we're losing money. The idea of this is that it's intended to be cost recovery. So that's really the main difference. And then breaking it out, because we are going away from a deposit to a fee, we wanted to provide a little bit more differentiation on the types of applications so that we're charging the right amount of fee for the type of application that, if it's going to go to Planning Commission, have public notice, have multiple meetings, versus if it's just a staff level decision that, requires a simple mail out. So that's why those are so different, and we can certainly go through those in greater detail.
I think that's highlighting the questions, Julie. I think that's what we're really asking for, is why it's that. And that information that you just divulged was not known until just now, right? So I'm going to leave it up to council, how council wants to do this. Do you want to talk about it tonight? Do you want to propose,
Mr. Mayor.
delay it? Go ahead, Councilor Patty.
I just had a quick clarifying question before we decide where we're going to go, if I could. So staff, I'm noticing as I'm going through this, kind of hacking on through, it kind of seems like there's elements of this that are, unchanged. And so I'm wondering if we can't discuss knocking out those at least, I don't know, and then maybe, like Steve was saying, go line by line and understanding why things are being changed in the areas that we really need to focus on. But, some of this I'm wondering if we can't get through tonight, but that's just my opinion.
I could try to walk it through real quickly, if you don't mind.
What does council wants to do? You want to address it starting tonight?
I think we could give it a try and maybe start talking about some of those things. I mean, there's 12 pages of fees here, so there's a lot to go over.
Okay, so
And before I just want to highlight, I very much appreciate the comments about not understanding the fees. I just want to highlight that we have a fee schedule that's now very public, and in the past we didn't. And so it is a little overwhelming because we actually are trying to be transparent and trying to share and show what the fees are and where the fee changes are. So I appreciate that we're taking the time to go through it, but I just want to remind everybody that by having this here, it might be overwhelming, but it's better that it's overwhelming and transparent than not. So go ahead, James.
sure. So page 1, there's no changes. That's page 34. Page 1 of the fee schedule, no changes. Page 2, there's just one new fee, fingerprinting for the police department. That's just for Stayton residents and businesses. There's just one minor change where we added the cost of repairs for parking on sidewalks if there's damage on page 3.
Do you the gray area on page 2?
Okay, so the gray area, these were fees that were already had ordinances and codes about, but just was not published on the fee schedule, so we've added those. So then there's on page 4, the community and economic development. So, again, this is adding clarity, allowing a lot more differentiation in the different types of permits and reviews and variances that are needed. And I'd let Jennifer or Julia speak to any questions on that if you have any.
Do you have any more questions based after what I stated as the why? I will say that we do, compared to the city I worked for before, this is like nothing. I know Jennifer looked at where these rates were in relation to other cities, and these are within the realm of what is normal in other cities. I don't know if you want to hear more about that or not.
Councilor Ort, you have a question?
I want to know. I want to know what it looks like previously. So we're talking about like land use applications.
Yeah.
Like, what is it going to cost? What did it cost someone previously? What does this look like that it's going to cost someone now? Because it's saying deposits.
So now you're going to have certainty. You're going to know that your fee is $1,700 for a site plan review. Currently, it might be $1,700, it might be $600, it might be $5,000, depending on how many legal fees we have, how many people come and testify, whether or not you go to LUBA. So there's a lot less certainty for everybody involved, and these fees are designed to kind of like average it out. So some might not be that complicated, some might be more complicated, but overall the average is expected to cost about that much money. And again, in theory, why shouldn't a developer who's more complicated and more litigious have to pay more? But the challenge is that takes a lot of time of record keeping, tracking. Finance has to have a whole separate process. There's time involved in that, and then we weren't going back and getting that afterwards. And again, there's a real lack of certainty for developers on what they're going to have to pay when they are just paying a deposit. Jennifer, do you want to come up and share any more?
Yeah.
At the microphone, please.
And so the white is the old fees, basically. And also, most of them were compressed into a deposit, like a $1,700 deposit. In which case, if it didn't add up to that amount, we would refund some of the money. If it was more, then we would ask them to pay more. So this is just more clarity and differentiation now in the new fee schedule, so they know what the fee will be.
Okay, so where you see in the orange, it says site plan review, preliminary partition plan. Those, how it was listed in the previous fee schedule was a land application with one public hearing. That's how it was listed. So instead, I listed all my land uses. So so the fee for a site plan that just is administrative is stayed the same. The site plan that goes to Planning Commission stays the same, or a modification or a preliminary plan stayed the same. I did recommend increase from 1,700 to 2,000 for subdivisions that are over 4 lots, and additionally for more for over 11 lots. So these are really large projects that potentially would cost much more. And then I dropped for conditional use, I dropped it down to 1,200, so it would cost you a $1,700 deposit, so it's $500 less. And then a variance submitted with another land use, it's $500. In the past, it would cost people $1,700. Like we said, it was a deposit, but so I definitely didn't really increase. I only increased when it was a more complicated land use. And then when it was less complicated, I reflected that as well by making it less. So I did add code interpretation by planning commission. Again, that I said $1,200, that would have been a $1,700 deposit. And other, I put other just in case I didn't cover something, but I think I covered them all. And that's it, if you have any questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor Sims.
Jennifer, so these, how, they're comparable to other cities our size? Is that, did you look at other comparable sized cities, or?
Yes. So James and I looked at Lebanon and Silverton, and we looked at their fee schedule, and I think we're less or around the same. Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's just hard to have a baseline of what's fair on some of these if you hadn't seen them before. That's okay. Thank you.
And let's be clear about something. So you're saying you're dropping it down, but those before were a deposit. This is actually a fee.
That is true. It is you're right. It was a deposit.
Okay. So we don't know exactly in those particular cases how much we gave back out of the deposit.
It is true, but people do have to. So, for instance, if somebody wanted a variance, they're giving $1,700. They might get it back. Like, I had a conditional use permit recently. It was $1,700 deposit, but they needed that. It didn't cost that much, and then they needed that money back because that was a lot for them. So, in a way, we're not asking for that much up front.
Anybody else? Okay, keep going.
The change of use permit was increased from $25 to $40 per application. That was Jennifer's recommendation. So that's on page 5. And then as we spoke in the work session just previously, there was the items in pink. These are the only items in pink on the entire fee schedule, and this page 38 or page 5 of the fee schedule. And we've talked about removing the sidewalk vendor license, so that just leaves the mobile food unit licenses, the secondhand business license, and the junk dealer's license that we will implement shortly. There's the next fee increases skip all the way down to the facility rentals. The community center, the building you're in right now, we have increased. You can see the old rate is there. What was the current rate now? The residents were paying $40 an hour. Now it goes to $50. Non-residents from $60 to $62.50. And some other increases there. The city, and that.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Ort.
I had a question, and this is putting you on the spot, but I am curious to know, I want to know what the income is that this building makes. How many times is it rented out for this fee? And we're going to increase the cleaning fee by $50. So it's going to cost $250 to rent it for an hour. And do we clean it every time? Is it cleaned after every use?
We do. We hire a business to come in and clean it, and so this was in line with the increased cost of cleaning over the years. I don't know that the last time this was increased, but it's been a while, yeah. Renting the community center, this building is, it's the cheapest place in a large radius for renting. And the cost.
Do we advertise?
We're working on that.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we wanted to do something to the walls here before we take some pictures and advertise it, but yeah, that is in the works. In terms of the city parks, these are changes, and they're not exactly increases, but currently it's $100 for 3 hours. And this is a simplification because of the software that we're using for the renting. It's much easier to implement it on an hourly basis, especially when we have a resident and a non-residential fee. So we've gone from $100 for 3 hours to $50 per hour. And then the non-resident fees, we're trying to get it consistent with a 25% increase for non-residents.
Mr. Mayor.
Council Ort.
You do not have to rent the shelters in order to use them, right?
That is correct. You can show up anytime. If there's no one there, you can use them.
Okay.
We're not charging for that. This is specifically to rent them for a particular use, a birthday party, an event of some sort, then they're reserved for you.
Okay, and I just have a question about if you rent out the entire park, how do we ensure that someone gets to use the entire park?
Well, it hasn't happened in a while, so I think there is paperwork involved in that. I think there's more than one department. I think the police have some input into that. It's really an event type of thing.
There is a separate code requirement for the whole park usage that requires it to be a public benefit, so it's not like anybody could just do that. So I think it might be my call. So it's a process, and we would have to make sure that it's available, and that would be part of the looking at the process. I don't know that we would necessarily do this, but in Cook Park and Tigard for their balloon festival, they actually have fencing up all around the park except for where the ticket booths are. So it depends on what the event was, and that would likely be something that we would require of whoever's renting the park in addition to that or something, but we'd have to work that out.
So moving on, there's a sports sites reservation. That's the online software I was speaking about. So there would be a $5 per reservation charge for renting the facilities online. Then on the next page, page 10 of the fees, there's give backs. These are discounts. These are $1 off for those. Anyone listening and you're a resident of Stayton, I encourage you to sign up for electronic, paperless billing or auto pay, and you will get back on your utility bill $2 every month, ongoing, as long as you're signed up. That's my little plug for that. Tampering with a water meter, we've had to increase that cost simply because the water meters themselves cost more money now. We have a better water meter that we use, and their cost is around $500 for those meters, but it depends on what we've paid for the meter at the time. And then that brings us into the utility fees, which these are in line with the utility rate study that was done by the FCS group recently.
James, can I have you to pause for a second?
Sure.
When was the last time we had a water increase? Wasn't it just recent?
The water usage, I believe it increased last year, so it would have been July 1st, 2024.
Okay. Go ahead.
So again, the utility increases include water, stormwater, wastewater. So that takes us to the swimming pool. And those are, again, across the board, 5% increases to the resident.
Well, hold on a second, James.
Sure.
Council Ort, go ahead.
I'm sorry, James. Can you go back to the water rates? It says, I got a little confused
Sure.
with some of these because it says 3%.
So
That's the base.
Yeah. So the water rates, and this maybe is part of the confusion with the city, but there's another document that kind of walks through this as well on our website. But the water rate is made up of 4 items. There is the usage, which is the last item. That's what everyone thinks of on their water bill. So single-family residents pay $1.66 per 1,000 gallons. So, but the first one is the base rate. That's the flat base fee, $19.06. That's up 3% from last year. And then there's a fee based on the meter size that goes to your facility. That also increased 3%. So that the standard size is that 3/4 inch, the one on top. So most single-family residents pay that $9.61 per month. And then there's a fire standby charge, and that's based on, I believe, the square foot of the dwelling or commercial unit. And so again, single-family residents have that $7.02. So you would add those 4 lines together. Well, the 3 fixed charges and then your variable charge.
And I just want to remind the council, but also the public, that we did the utility rate study that was based on 5 years, and in that, it identified a specific recommended percentage increase. It's not based on CPI, so if CPI is higher or lower, it doesn't matter. The idea is that over the 5-year period, it was calculated to basically recoup the costs that we need to pay to do the infrastructure. So I don't recall what that is, but it's not like next year it's going to be 15% or 20%. It was higher last year, if I recall, and then each year is going to be pretty steady. I think even going down a little bit, but I'm not positive about that, for all of the utility rates except for transportation.
Mr. Mayor?
Dr. Sims.
James, I know we had one increase last year on July 1st. Was that, I should remember this, but was that the only increase we had last year?
Sorry, for which rates? Or?
It was for, I think it was for all the water rates. Didn't we have a July 1st increase?
Yes, that's typical of July 1st, their annual increases, yes.
Was that the only one last year that we had?
Yes, for utilities. Yes. Other than transportation, we did not increase in July. We increased in January this year, 2025.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to make sure there was only one increase.
Yes, there was just one. So
Okay.
we do come and adjust some fees at different times of the year. For example, the SDCs, we have to wait for a CPI index to be published in June. So then we will come again and adjust the SDC rates in the fee schedule. And occasionally we do have to make changes, for certain things like the transportation fees. So it comes up throughout the year.
And just as a reminder, SDC is system development charges, and that's charged at the time of development for a development's impact to the system. So that's it's not a user, it's not a rate payer, it's a one-time charge charged with development.
Okay. Thanks.
James,
Go ahead.
can you remind me what on the usage per thousand, what is the difference between city? What does that signify again? I can't remember.
Those are city-owned facilities,
Okay.
the plants, the parks.
Right.
This is something we were not charging previously, and the FCS group recommended we do charge ourselves. So we do pay ourselves in this, but it works into the calculations.
Okay, and that's not going to filter and factor into residential increase.
Correct.
Okay.
So, yep. So after the utilities, then is the swimming pool, and again, that's to help try to move toward a more sustained financial facility at the pool.
But sorry to back you up. Storm
Sure.
drainage went up by 3%.
Stormwater rates up 3%.
Where do the percentages, like the monthly percentage of can you remind us, 6.75 for the wastewater usage, and then it says 16%? Is that because you added in, for the water rates, that's because you added in city and irrigation?
Can you remind me where the 16%
I'm sorry, on number
comes from?
10, on page 10, on water rates, it says 16%.
So the 16% was the increase for the city and the irrigation
Okay, I
rates
gotcha.
only. Just the
Okay.
ones in yellow.
Okay. And then on page 12, the monthly water rate, wastewater rates.
Yes, that one increased 6.75%. For commercial and industrial. For residential, it's 3%.
Why is that different?
Again, in the FCS utility rate study, they realized that the residents were paying a disproportionate amount, so they increased the rates for commercial and industrial to compensate.
Okay. Are we done?
Yes, yep.
Did you talk about the mobile home park increase and the apartment and all that? I think that's, I can't tell which page it is. Page 44, I guess.
Yeah, that's a continuation of the
Page 10. So it'd be 11, I
the
guess?
stormwater. So it's an across the board 3% increase for stormwater, both residential and commercial, all 3% increases.
Okay. And then you covered the pool already? Is there any other questions for James, Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Ort?
Do the swim teams pay the private rental rates?
They pay separately. We're developing, right now we bill them, we invoice them an hourly rate, but we're going to be changing that to a contract amount just to have it in writing. So we're working on that. And that's why it's not in here, because it'll be like a separate contract with the teams or the schools.
Is it going to be this rate?
No. James is telling
Yeah,
me.
it's not these published rates.
No.
There's, like Alyssa said, it's a separate contract, and I'm not sure what that amount is.
Yeah, I don't know that we've finalized it. Emily works with Elizabeth to invoice it, so I don't know off the top of my head what we charge right now, but I do know that we haven't raised it in a couple of years, and it will be going up. A fair amount. Obviously, we want to keep supporting the local swim teams and coming in, but they do need to pay their fair share also.
I have another request for public comment. Will council indulge me for a minute? Come on up, Terry.
Terry Mesa, 427 North 3rd Avenue, downtown Stayton. I just need an explanation of the transportation fee, how it's assessed, because when you look at all 4 of our water bills, it makes absolutely no sense. And the one for the 505 building is $50 a month. And we have 1 toilet and 1 sink. It seems very excessive. So if someone could explain that, I'd appreciate it.
So counselors, if I may, we are going to be meeting with the Mesas. We tried to schedule it last week, but there were some conflicts, and we're trying to get something scheduled just to walk through and look at it to see if the rates are being charged correctly. She said transportation, but I assume she means the water or wastewater. Transportation is based on the type of use and the number of trips anticipated for commercial and industrial uses, and the other ones are really tied to the meter size, and so we need to look at that and see if they're getting charged correctly. So,
Okay, thanks, Julie. That works for me. If you could just follow up with council after that. Okay, council, what do you want to do here?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ort?
I believe that she is talking about the transportation fee, the $50.
well, the transportation fee has nothing to do with the number of toilets you have, or
Oh, okay.
yeah.
never
So
mind.
I guess the transportation fee is then going to be based on the type of use, and we can look at that as well.
Sure.
Okay, council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ort?
I think that there's a valid point to be made, though, about the transportation fee, because when we talk about it, we talked about raising the fee, we talked about raising the single-family residential residents to $10. But that also then raises the fees for the businesses, but that's not something that we talk about or really even take into consideration. So I think that's a fair point when we talk about the transportation fee to look at that.
Okay, yeah.
And then one more point, I also want to contend that I do not believe that the type of residence that you live in should dictate whether or not you pay like $5 in a mobile home park or $10 in a single family residence. I've already said this before, but I really feel like those should be the same, or they should be averaged out, because you could have a single person living alone in a house that never drives anywhere, pay $10 a month, and then you could have someone who lives in a manufactured home in a mobile home park that goes to work every day, and they're using the street more. I understand that we use a metric and whatever, but I don't really feel like it's really based in real life. So I think it's based on a video game, it sounds like. So I would really like us to take a look at that, and if we're talking about people paying their fair share, I think that should be something that we take a look at and change.
Okay, thank you.
And on that, I guess I would offer that the next time we look at the street maintenance fee methodology, I think that's something that we can certainly look at, but that's a bigger lift than just doing the utility rates. But we'll take direction from council on whatever you wish, but that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Mr. Brand, did I miss the transit occupancy tax, or is it not on the fee schedule?
Well,
Did I miss it?
I believe it's on there.
That's why I'm asking. Maybe I missed it. I don't. I didn't see it. Again, I'm old, so maybe I missed it.
One of the things that we have been finding is, as James said, there's a number of things that are in process and are charged but weren't on the fee schedule. So it's possible that it is not on the fee schedule, but it's still something that we do. But let's look more thoroughly and.
Yeah, I don't think it's on here. We do have code for it, specific for those type of businesses, and we do enforce that on those type of businesses.
Yeah, so do you think it should be on the fee schedule? I get a lot of questions about
I
it.
would recommend, I think anything that we charge, I would
Yeah.
recommend we be transparent and show on the
I
fee
agree.
schedule. Alyssa's looking at, it is in our code and it's listed as a percentage of the rent.
Right.
So that would be a simple line to add that just,
Yeah, I'd like to discuss that in the future. I get a lot of questions about that, especially if it, correct me if I'm wrong, it goes back to the general fund, correct? It's not targeted for one specific use?
That's true.
Okay, council, we're back to discussion. So you can either take action, take no action, or what do you want to do?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Patty.
Yeah, I was just kind of hacking through this, and I was kind of going through the fee schedule, and I was thinking that maybe just, since we have all these other questions, and it sounds like, some folks are going to come back to us with some thoughts. I was going through and I was thinking that maybe we do approve like half of this fee schedule, like the admin section, the public records section, the muni court section, the public works section, and the library section, but then we put on hold the community economic development section, the facility rental section, the utility rate section, the swimming pool, if there's still questions about that, because I saw there was a lot of changes for the swimming pool. So I don't know, just thought.
And just for clarification, Alyssa's whispering to me, that, thank you, but that's not necessary. These don't go into effect until July. So, I mean, we do want direction as we build the budget, but doing it tonight versus waiting a meeting won't be a huge issue.
Yeah, I'll just add, we are building the budget based on the rates. Hopefully, I was, hoping to have solid revenue numbers so we can start working on the expenditures. So if things are going to change, then we might have more work to do with the budget.
I don't know if there's any urgency as in passing it tonight, but that's up to council. I think there's too many questions right now to make a vote. That's just my opinion.
And if that's the direction, I guess I want clarification on what the questions are. Is it just you need to think about what we've answered, or are there more questions that haven't been answered that we need to get back to you on?
I think for me, it's there's stuff missing. We just talked about,
Okay.
For example, transit occupancy tax. I'm sure we might be missing more stuff, and I appreciate staff making note of the stuff that hasn't been charged in the past and now bring it to attention. But let's make sure, for me, it's complete,
Okay.
and make sure council feels good with adopting this, because it's going to affect people again in our community.
This is Mr. Mayor. Thank you. This is Councilor Patty. Yeah, I just, James, if we are going to do that, one thing just to kind of improve this for clarity's sake, instead of having like the plus 3% at the top, can we just have the old amount to the left or right of whatever the new amount is, and then that way it's easier to see where it's coming from and what it's going to and all that?
That's what we did before.
So track changes, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Track changes. Thank you.
In the past, it was striked out with red, and then Councilor Carey?
Mr. Mayor, back to this cannabis one, isn't there a tax that's kicked back to the city, to the cannabis? And do we know what that is?
The
From
percentage?
their sales?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're not supposed to be too forth. We've got to sign a secrecy clause in order to get certain information, so we would need to make sure that it's not a significant amount of money. It's helpful, but it's not.
The county sends us funds periodically for that.
I guess I do have one other question or request. So the fees that are based on fines by ordinance, is there any historical way to tell us how often those ordinances are enforced and the fines are levied?
Not easily. It all goes in the same account, and it's not easy to differentiate which fines are coming in under which ordinances, unfortunately.
Okay, that's another discussion for later. I guess we can talk about that later.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Sims.
One thought I had, I know John mentioned he was putting together a commission or a group to talk about the fees. I know we don't have a lot of time to do this, but I don't know if there's a timeline on that. I'd love to hear some public opinion on some of these fees. I'm really interested in that and hearing where people are and some of the fees that we have, but I don't know. I know you have to get the budget together in May, and it seems like we could have a month or something to maybe hear some more public opinion about some of these fees.
I would recommend, I think that's not a bad idea to have that. I would recommend that be a separate process. So we've had our fees, a fee schedule in place. We need to move forward with the budget. And if we're talking about drastic changes, that's not going to be very helpful in forecasting a budget. But that doesn't mean that we can't have that conversation for next year or going forward, so that we can, if there are tweaks that we need to make and process and and fees, we absolutely can, but I would caution about trying to do that before a budget that's due in a couple months.
Mr. Mayor,
Council Ort.
for the land use application stuff, to the point that you made of like some of these went down, some went up, I'm still just a little curious, slightly concerned that if people are getting deposits back, and let's say it was a $1,700 deposit, but they were getting part of that back, I just generally would like to know how much it previously cost someone to, to do a preliminary subdivision plan for 4 to 10 lots and what that looks like before we say, okay, yeah, $2,000 sounds good. Because I feel like this is kind of the same issue that we would run into with the sidewalk fee, vendor fees, where we're like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds reasonable. And then lo and behold, it's $500 a year type of thing. So I want to know what those numbers look like previously.
So we can certainly get council more information about that, as well as what other cities do. Like I said,
not independents, because they just increase their fees significantly, and that's not good.
Yes, duly noted. I think most cities have a fee and not a deposit, and that was something I noticed when I first came on, and I don't know how accurate it's going to be. We will certainly get you that information, but my concern is that we didn't do a good job tracking, that it was just Dan and Dan's time and not the overhead and the postage costs and the administrative overhead and all of those things. And so we will get you that information, but I just want to sort of caution that if we want development to pay for itself and not be subsidized, having it be a deposit, you're almost always going to be having subsidy because you're not going to be keeping good track of things.
Understood. I will say, Julia, that I appreciate staff taking note of council direction, and if you notice on the agenda item, it says this meeting includes topics that may increase rates, taxes, and fees. So that's a good step in the right direction. I think council's been asking for that for a bit, and that starts the transparency portion of what we were asking, what we're trying to get to. So thank you for doing that. All right, does council want to do what? Want to hold off on this? Can someone give me some direction so they can give staff direction, please?
Mr. Mayor.
Council Ort.
I think we should hold off on this discussion to get some questions answered.
Okay. So do you need no action, or what would you like to do?
I believe I'm hearing that you want to table it to the next meeting, and I think that is a fine statement.
Okay. Council have consensus for that? Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Can we just
go ahead?
Sorry. Can we just request what questions, like by the end of this week?
Sure. There's a request. Council, can you all send Julia and/or James some concerns, questions, comments?
And I got the ones you shared this evening, but if there's anything else that's looming, I think that would.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to resolution number 25-010, downtown core parking management. Jennifer?
So good evening again. Just for the record, I'm Jennifer Siciliano, the Community and Economic Development Director. Before you is draft resolution discuss the issues of downtown core parking area. Some background, there was a survey conducted from August to October 2025 and surveyed residents, business, and building owners within the downtown core area. The area was defined from Water, along 3rd Avenue from Water to Burnett Streets, and going east and west to 1st and 2nd, but not counting 1st and 2nd. So we received 155 responses, mostly were customers. 43% found parking easy, while 30% found it difficult, especially between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. Also, lack of signage for public parking was noted as a key concern. So we had a work session not too long ago discussing and going over the survey. Staff proposed 4 different ideas to deal with short-term parking. Let's see. To encourage, one is the easiest, to encourage employees and business owners to park off 3rd Avenue. The second was to install wayfinding signs to the public lots, making it more clear on Florence and the courthouse, parking lots. And then in our normal maintenance of restriping downtown, that we measure the downtown area parking spots, street spots, and see if we can get some more. I also included short-term parking limits to increase turnover. Let's see, since the survey mentioned that people were willing to walk for 2 blocks to their destination, we suggested 30-minute parking every other block, so that would be, for instance, on the east side of 3rd Avenue on the 100 block would be 1 spot, and the 200 block on the west side, and then 300 block on the east side, and the 400 block on the west side of 3rd Avenue, that there would be 1 spot for 30-minute parking. Also suggested in the resolution is that it be for weekdays only from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So this is really, we proposed it thinking that the city council would discuss it and provide their guidance, and also direct us on how we should put the short-term parking if desired. If there's a different location to put those spots, if it encompasses the whole street, if it's a different time. And so that's all. I did bring some people asked me right before the work day that they would like the results from the survey. I have them here.
Thanks. You good?
Yes, I am good. Thanks.
Council have any questions for Jennifer yet? Go ahead. Councilor Sims.
So I definitely like the proposed solutions. Honestly, I think as Stayton grows, we're probably going to have to look at some other solutions like one way on 2nd and 3rd and angled parking. Be honest, I think that's the only way we're going to really increase the parking, and I think it'd work really well just to go to one way on 2nd and 3rd and have multiple angled parking. I think we could get a lot more spots in. I'm sure that we can do a study on that and figure it out, but but I really do think we're going to end up having to go to one-way streets.
Okay. Anybody other council?
Mr. Mayor.
Council Ort?
For the short-term parking, how are we going to enforce it?
I think that
Comes up, I think that I know the thought is that it is way easier to enforce 4 30-minute parking spaces than it is all street 3-hour. There's 4 distinct spots. It's pretty easy to look, for 30 minutes versus tracking an entire street for various 3 hours. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be largely based on our call volume and our availability. So in a day that maybe our call volume's not large and we have availability to pay attention to what's parked there and we see obvious violations, we would address those. Largely, it's going to be complaint driven. So if someone makes note that there's a violation there and they call in, then we will address it. Yes, as Julia said, that 30 minutes is a lot easier for our officers to notice, okay, that white truck has been there for, an hour and a half, the 30 minutes, as opposed to a whole street and having to pay attention to each and every car and how frequently it moves. So, yeah, and I know the obvious seems, well, you're pulling out on 3rd Street, but we're pulling out going to a domestic fight. I'm not expecting that my officers are going to take note of each car and when they last saw it there, or they're heading to a fraud call and trying to decide what their course of action is on the investigation or a child abuse investigation. So yes, it is important and we would be paying attention to it, but it's also helpful to us with parking type issues that we get feedback and people are reporting that they're seeing violations. I think the other thought is there's people that will be compliant with it just because there's a sign put up, and probably that's the case. So I think that perspective too, 30 minutes, people are pretty compliant with. That's the jump out, grab a slice of cake and jump back in, or jump out, grab a coffee, whatever it might be.
Thanks, Chief.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
I think sooner than later, we need to restripe the streets because, even in front of the police station right now, that white line exceeds the yellow. So you'd be parking way into the yellow where the white line is. So I think if we get that taken care of, people have a better understanding also where they can park legally.
Councilor Bauer.
Mr. Mayor, just out of curiosity, Chief, so what if I get parked in my 30-minute spot? I'm like, oh, I got to move my car. I get in, move it, and come back and park there. Would that be technically not parking there for 30 minutes?
If someone feels that that motivated to keep the same spot for a consecutive 30 minutes, then go for it.
Okay. And then the next question would be like, how would you, because like downtown Salem, they like take pictures, they're like super anal about their parking. Would you like take a photo, time-stamped, and then like how would it play out in like court if the person was like, I moved my car, you don't have proof that I didn't move my car? How would that play out as far as enforcing that?
It's kind of with everything we do. It's, yeah, and that's why we've had these discussions before, is we work off of what we can prove to the court and to the judge. This is a low level of proof to the court. It's not like probable cause for a crime. But yes, we would want to be sure that we're handing out a ticket that is valid, that we don't just think someone was parked there for 30 minutes. But usually with parking, we're going to do some sort of, there's been changes in case law on what we can do and can't do with vehicles. But yes, it's going to, however the officer provides proof to the court to show it was there.
So do you think it's a realistic thing that your department could take on, possibly, like actually prioritizing writing tickets for 30-minute parking violations?
We don't have parking enforcement, so it would be prioritized with our other calls for service.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ort.
would this overtime parking $50, that's what we would charge
In the fee schedule?
in the fee schedule?
Yeah, I think she's saying in the fee schedule, there's a
If
fee
that's
for
what the fee
overtime charge.
schedule is, yes.
Is this what we want it to be?
It's up to
It's
council.
$25 in Salem. Don't ask me how I know.
Yeah, and then we've, there are, I mean, we can do it under ORS, which is over $100, which I don't think is. I personally feel that that's a little steep to do $100 or $125, but ORS is a much stiffer parking penalty.
I think. Say that again? Yeah. We maybe think about that when we come back to this discussion.
Cool. Councilor Patty?
And the other part of a fine is that it's what the court imposes. That's what gets them into court. If they
Correct.
don't appear in court, that's what their fine is. So it also has room for what the judge imposes.
No, I don't know that I have any other questions. I mean, to be honest with you, I just have concerns about capacity here to enforce this from Stayton PD's perspective with all the things going on around here that are of higher priority. But I feel like that's been expressed sort of here.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Thanks, Jennifer. Now's an opportunity for public comment on this resolution, and we'll start with Adam. Come on up, Adam.
Thank you for the time, Council. I think that it's...
Sorry.
what's that?
Give your name, full name,
Oh,
please.
my name's Adam Culbertson, owner of Homegrown Remedies downtown. I think it's rather ironic that one of the big worries is enforcement when we have parking places in front of the courthouse. They're not enforced. We had 2 of them that were in the police parking lot there for, I want to say, better 20 years. They were never enforced. But now that the business owners are asking for 3-hour parking downtown, all of a sudden enforcement's a big deal. I don't know why the city seems so against the parking down there. I don't know if it's a cost to put the signs in or what, but I kind of try to think of the better of people, especially the city of Stayton. I think we have pretty good citizens here that it's no different. The people lock their car door to keep the honest man out. You put up a parking sign to keep the honest man, move his car within 3 hours. So I have trouble understanding how, if it's the city's idea to come up with parking places and signs where you can and can't park, or a certain amount of timed parking, well, that's a good idea. But if the citizens or the business owners downtown that are, kind of the heart of downtown, trying to keep everything thriving down there, all of a sudden it's not a good idea. Furthermore, I think that the 4 things that they offer, the public parking, why isn't there signs already down there? I mean, this is 2025, folks. Like, there should definitely be signs down there that tell you where the public parking is. So that drops down to 3 options that are on the table. And I still think, if you do 3-hour parking, I talked to a gentleman last week, and it was one of those things where he asked, well, if you go downtown, you want to watch a movie and you want to eat dinner, it's going to be longer than 3 hours. Well, if you go downtown at 5 o'clock and your parking is from 8 to 6, you're fine. You'll by the time you get done eating your dinner, it'll be 6, and you're good for the rest of the night, really, if you want to leave your car there. So I would urge the council to look at it from a business owner's point of view, in that it's a problem. It's a problem on Ida Street in front of 1111. It's a problem all the way down 3rd, and I just think that honest people are going to pay attention to the signs, and they will move if they need to move, and they won't be there longer than 3 hours. But I tend to think the better of people, so maybe I'm off on that. But thanks for your time.
Thanks, Adam. All right, Mike.
I'm Mike Schultz, owner 1111 downtown Stayton here. The parking, I'm with Adam. We were discussing, my wife and I was telling my wife and I, we both like the 3-hour time, or the 3-hour time limit down there. It's something that's a little bit easier to, I think it's more or less, there's a lot of residents downtown, and there's a lot more than what used to be even 20 years ago. And we take that into consideration. They have to park somewhere. And I think there has to be some type of resolution that we can all work together on this. I'm in favor for a 3-hour, just for the simple fact that it's not going to take up our officers' time. That's one reason. In December, my busiest month, I had one car out in front of my business across the street, sat there all month long, absolutely all month, never moved. I'm not. I know I can call after 3 days, but I'm not going to take their time. I'm not going to. It's. I've already called on it once. I'm not going to sit there and just keep beating a dead horse. But there has to be some type of resolution. There's two other vehicles on my side of the street, sat right in front of my business, probably 80% of all December, because they live downtown. But that's just where they park. They just park their cars there. But they move in the daytime, so they must work at night. Or they move at night, but in the daytime, this is where they park. So I have to deal with it. There's nothing I can do about it. But a 3-hour time limit would definitely make, even though these people live downtown, they have to realize that this is a working downtown, and so we have to both work together on it to make it work. And I think that's a very doable thing. I think we can come to a resolution with. And I like the idea that the officers don't have to get involved. It's just a 3-hour. Most business owners can realize, hey, we don't have vehicles, sitting out in front of our car or sitting out in front of our shop absolutely all day long. Who owns this thing? It gets very frustrating. Another thing I had on my list there, if I could, I did notice last month when we got together, there's a couple of things. I did mention about an email. I have talked to the person that did write the email. He says he knows he has it. He'll have to look for it. I believe he sent it to Ian. It was an email stating that where the curb, the drain was going to be right in the middle, and they didn't want it in the middle of the walkway, so they had to move it around. It was about almost 8 feet away. Well, there wasn't going to be enough drain for that. And so in the email, he stated to the fact that, okay, that's going to cause a drain issue. I can't get the grade from going from one side to the other. And the response was, don't worry about that. We'll worry about that later. And so anyway, it's there.
Okay.
But I've tried to get him to get it. And the other thing I wrote up there was money allocation. I'm just kind of curious. I know Adam said something about monies going to the library last month. He said, because he pays 3%. And it fluctuates probably from month to month. And just on a business aspect, I'm like, man, that's a lot of money coming in there, like going in there. And like, where is that money going? Like, it's going somewhere, but I noticed they said it was allocated, but where was it going? It's kind of an interesting, because he doesn't even know where it goes.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right, John and/or Terry.
Hi again. Terry Mesa, 427 North 3rd Avenue. I really believe that we need to have like some sort of task force or working situation around discussing solutions to this. As a business owner, we're downtown daily watching the traffic patterns. I appreciate the survey that was done, but it's very it's biased, weighted according to who responded. Not saying that there wasn't a great attempt to get responses, but when you're talking something as important as downtown parking, I think it'd be really important to survey in person the downtown business owners so that you could actually see the activity and the patterns that happen. I don't see any issue with having a 3-hour parking signs and just doing the honor system. And if people are abusing it, then relying on the business owners to maybe report it. So there wouldn't be a cost to administering, those signs, or possibly even, I think we have an ordinance officer who walks the streets to pinpoint the sidewalk issues and all that. Why can't they walk the streets and maybe look at parking issues? So I think there's lots of potential solutions. I have a lot of ideas myself. In 2012, John and I bought our first building downtown, and we started FOTS, Friends of Old Town Stayton, back then. And one of the very first things we addressed back then, this is when downtown was dead, was we're going to eventually have a parking problem, and we need to talk about that. And the sentiment was, we will never have a parking problem. Well, we have a huge parking problem right now, and I see people drive by some of our businesses, specifically in the center area, at the Grove. And if they can't park and they can't find a space, they'll just drive on and go somewhere else and shop. So that's lost revenue to the business owners. And it's costing, it does cost us a lot. And I'm sorry, but a 30-minute parking space on every block is not going to solve the issue. It really isn't. And I think we need to take a more comprehensive look at it and maybe have a work study or something with a group of actual business owners from downtown who have a history and have seen the patterns and the changes and probably have some really good ideas.
Great, thanks, Jerry. Greg?
Greg Peavy, owner of Stayton, Stayton Sobiet, and member of RDS, vice president. The parking, I've noticed if you're talking about the four things you were talking about, the trying to squeeze more out of what we have too. I've been down there and watched people trying to park in the spots we have, and most people can't park without hitting the curb or parking 4 feet away from the sidewalk anyway. So I think that's going to be a huge waste of money. You should save that money and buy signs. Do the 3-hour signs along 3rd Street. And then don't worry about enforcement because you have the ordinance person and we can report to the ordinance person. But I've walked down the street and seen cars with like cobwebs in their fender wells, and that's pretty obvious they've been there for longer than an hour or 5 or 10, and it's not too much to ask, I don't think. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Anybody else? Okay, doesn't look like it. All right, council, let's have a discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Patty.
Yeah. To the point of some of the things we've heard here and to what I was saying earlier, I really don't think the 30 minutes thing was very actionable. That's just my personal opinion. And just looking at question 20 on the survey and what we've heard here, it kind of sounds like that's not really meeting the mark anyways. So I personally, at this point, I'm in favor of kicking off section 4 and removing it until we can, either get a group to agree on something. But at this point, I'm even okay with the 3-hour thing, just given what we've heard here from the public. That's just my own personal opinion, though.
Councilor Sims.
I've heard 3-hour parking over and over again. I don't think it's a real hard solution. I would be up for doing 3-hour parking. And then get together. I think we need to hear everybody's opinion and ideas, maybe this survey of the business owners. I thought that was a good idea, and see what people think. But if people were parking down there for months at a time or whatever, I know I park down there. It's difficult.
And council, as you're discussing this, if there is a consensus on the 3-hour parking, I would ask where, because there are residents, and so we can't give them no place to park while they sleep, for more than 3 hours at a time. So if you guys can discuss that, that would be helpful.
Mayor, I think also we need to get in cahoots with the business owners quickly and get the ball rolling on this, especially with summer coming up, because it's going to be very, very busy. If we can get this established sooner than later, it'd be great.
Councilor Patty.
Thank you. Hey, just to your point, Julie, on that, these 4 staggered every other blocks, we can't do that. Are there any areas that staff's aware of that's already designated where we could place these selectively through town, or do we not really have any idea on anything?
Are you talking about for 30-minute parking or 3?
Yeah, the original proposal. That's not going to work, like you just said. But
oh no, the 30-minute. Yeah. One spot per block for 30 minutes or even 3 hours, that's easy.
Yeah.
The entire downtown for 3 hours would be problematic for residents.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Bauer.
On the the resident parking downtown. I know in downtown Salem, there's people that live downtown there, and they have permits to park on city streets that are no parking for more than 3 hours. I agree with Councilor Patty and a lot of other people. The 30-minute thing, I don't think is going to solve a darn thing. On the 3-hour parking, if you made the whole downtown 3 hours, my only concern with that is someone parks. The goal is to get them to walk around downtown, right? Hit all the shops up, maybe get a bite to eat. Could potentially be there more than 3 hours. That's just my only concern. I'm not against the 3 hours. I think it's actually a pretty good idea. We've heard a lot of people bring that up. So most of these, like 1, 2, and 3, I'm all for. But the 30-minute staggered, I don't think it's worth the headache.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ort.
do we know how many apartments are downtown?
Not off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't know. The Jones Hotel is a lot. I know
They don't have a parking spot.
No, they don't.
Or like a parking. They obviously
The
don't have a parking lot.
Marketplace has 4 above them. The Dietrich building will have hopefully two, possibly more. I know Aaron's building across from where the ballet used to be. There's apartment in there. So.
Using our transportation matrix to count how many trips per day people in apartments take. No, I'm joking. It'd be really interesting to just know how many, because we don't have enough. I have so many thoughts. To know how many apartments there are and the people that, like, you want to park in front of your house where you live. Like, I want to park in my driveway. But also there is this push and pull of the businesses too. So I see, like, the 3-hour parking won't work for people who live down there. And then also understand what people are saying about, like, just put the signs up, but what's going to happen is the expectation is going to be there of enforcement. And so when that doesn't happen, then we're going to be in a spot where it's like you're not enforcing these signs. So I feel like if there was a group of people that did have some solutions or some suggestions, that would be great, because at this point we're not going to make anybody happy. But more so, like, the people that live downtown, again, they should be able to park in front of their house. Maybe we could have, like, can we have designated, like, residential spots for people?
There is a lot of parking in the floor. I mean, it does get filled up in the evening, but there is a lot of in Florence Street parking, and then in the courthouse parking. But yeah, I would think that maybe you'd want to put the 3-hour parking on 3rd Avenue, but then everyone would just go on the side streets. So you probably want to do it for more far than that.
But we also have businesses on the side streets,
yeah,
too.
you do.
Maybe 3 hours on one side of the street. And
Yeah, I think, yeah.
just a point of order, just the audience input isn't getting on the camera or the audio,
Gotcha.
so.
I think I might have heard someone say that we might need a little bit more information before we make a decision.
I heard that as well. What else council want to do?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Patty.
Councilor Patty.
I'd like to renew my initial proposal where we approve this with section 1, 2, and 3 and remove 4 for now until we can get some folks together and agree on something.
So, Councilor Patty, would you be proposing amending the resolution to direct staff to do something, or just amending the
Yes, ma'am.
resolution?
Yes, ma'am. I can just make the motion if everybody's okay with that. All right. So I move that we'd adopt resolution number 25-010 with the following modification to remove section 4.
I will second.
Okay, I hope you guys wrote it down over there. There's been a motion and a second to approve resolution number 25-010, downtown core parking management, with the amendment to remove section, or item number 4 from the proposed solutions. Is that correct? Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Is there a second?
Yeah, I second.
There was, yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Ort.
I second this motion with the intention to revisit number 4 and workshop that.
Okay, so noted. Council consensus with that? Good? Sounds like it? All right, so those in favor of the resolution as amended and as
Wait, do we have to
conveyed.
vote on the?
What?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Do you want me, Alyssa said the way that Councilor Patty so eloquently did the motion, we shall be fine.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of resolution number 25-010 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will revisit that at a later date.
And with that, I just wanted, for the people that took the time to come here this evening, that I think that the resolution isn't quite where they had hoped. What I will ask Jennifer to do is to convene some business owners and maybe try to even find some of the residential land building owners, and it looks like there's a counselor that would be interested in being part of that discussion to meet and workshop that and see if there's a solution that we can recommend together.
Okay, works for me. Thanks for that. An opportunity for communication from city staff. Julia?
I have a bit, and I'm sorry because I know it's been long already. One, I just wanted to remind counselors that you should have gotten an email from the state about your SEI filing. I know Counselor Carey, being new, was like, is this for real? Is this spam? So it's not spam, it's for real. You need to do it. And if you don't, you could get fined. So please do it. I wanted to note that at a prior council meeting, Counselor Carey mentioned, and several other nodded, a concern about some vision clearance issues at the corner of 10th and Fern Ridge. And we looked at it, and I looked at it personally as well. It's not a vision clearance issue per se, so it's not a code violation, but I have drafted a letter that I'll actually send out tomorrow to the property owner, just explaining the concerns and asking them to take care and just cut it back and make sure it's maintained. That approach worked well at Gardner and Schaff Road with the property owner. It was a multifamily development, so they have landscapers, so it might have been a little bit easier. But they did take heed, and when they did some landscaping, they moved those bushes back. So I'm hopeful that will help with that. I wanted to note that, just for anybody watching at home, the If I Were Mayor contest ends March 21st. I am going to turn to Alyssa and ask her to give you an update on some things that we're looking at in this room in response to council feedback at the goal setting.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So what Julia was alluding to was the discussion of maybe getting an official council dais and doing some upgrades in here for audio visual. We've gotten this set up pretty nailed down, Melanie and I, but we could be better. So I did some looking and have been got a quote from a company who specializes in audiovisual upgrades and has done it for some other cities around here recently. And so we're working with them, and it honestly would be pretty awesome what they're going to do. Just to give you like a preview of what they told me today, they would put like 4 cameras in, and we would get new microphones. The council, like the mayor, could actually mute people. You would have power. Yeah, a lot of power. But the cameras, so if Luke, if you were speaking into your microphone, the cameras would direct to him. And so it would move as you guys are talking. The company also was able to get us a price and a sample of like a dais, portable dais, that could seat 2 people at each dais. So just so you know, we're working on that and looking at things. We're going to be applying for a grant this week to see if we can get maybe some of the funding covered for that. It's definitely not cheap, but it would be an investment. For the long term, we literally would be able to come, it'd be like plug and play. Everything that Melanie does now that I used to do, coming down here for an hour, setting up and getting everything, making sure all the things are working, we'd literally be able just to come grab this little console and hit start when we want to start streaming a meeting. And so it takes a lot of the thinking out of it for her and I and troubleshooting. And so we're going to be applying for a grant this week, and we're going to include in there just some refreshing, the nicest room in this building right now is the kitchen. And so looking at maybe some painting in here, getting rid of the rest of the asbestos flooring, and looking, we'll be making some proposals for the budget, and getting a grant would be super awesome to help with that.
But wait, there's more. Jennifer is up here, and she's going to give you an update on the Safe Streets for All project.
Sure. I just wanted to invite everyone. I believe it's April 3rd, a Thursday, here in the community center. There's going to be an open house between 5 and 8 for the Stayton Safety Action Plan, and that's the plan that deals with car and pedestrian and bike safety. So you don't have to, you can just pop in and come in, and we have consultants that we've brought on board, and they'll answer any questions about community safety action plans and other plans that they've done, and they will solicit your input of where there's certain places that are unsafe and that you'd like them to be safer. I also want to mention that as part of that safety action plan, we also have a public advisory committee, and we're looking for a couple city council members. We have people from the planning board, hopefully from the school board, and some enthusiasts hopefully for bicycle and pedestrian walking, but we definitely wanted at least 2 people from the city council if you're interested. I'll let you think about that. That's it.
And as you were thinking about that, just as a reminder for the council as well as the public, the importance of this project, as I think you all know, this is the foundational element for our hopeful Safe Streets for All construction grant. So the more we hear from the public about how unsafe it is to walk and bike and drive on the streets because of the conditions of the streets, the better of a story that will help us tell through the action plan, and ultimately hopefully the construction grant. So please come, please share, please get people to come and share. That would be really helpful. Any questions?
That's on April 3rd.
April 3rd?
Yes. 5:30.
And we are, at the next meeting, I believe, we have a resolution to formally appoint the Public Advisory Committee. And I know Jennifer has reached out to some folks. I know Mayor Quigley had a suggestion for someone, a bicycle enthusiast. I think he's still thinking about it. So if you have ideas of people that you think would be fantastic, pedestrian, runners, bicyclists, or just, general interest, let Jennifer know so she could look at that. Or council members. Okay, it looks like Chief Johns is ready to come and give an update, so I'll have her come and give an update on the speed radar signs.
Mayor, councilor, and staff, just wanted to give an update. As long as I've been in law enforcement, traffic enforcement, traffic safety, traffic education is always a big topic in communities, and no different here. In the time that I've been here, there's been lots of discussion about getting radar trailers, radar feedback boards. I know we had some discussion 21, where I worked to get a radar board from the county. Took a year. It was on loan, but we had it up on Jefferson. Lots of good feedback from it, from the public. They appreciated it. It gave us good intel, gave good feedback to the citizens. So Stayton Police Department now has 2 radar feedback boards. One is solar, and one is needs to be charged. So the solar one would be for long-term deployments. They have found with these that if they're up too long, people just disregard them and they're no longer effective. So even the long-term, we're looking at a few months, then we'll deploy it to a new area. And then the battery operated that needs to be recharged will move more frequently. So there are limitations to where we can place it for effectiveness, for safety and actually getting effective reading of the radar. But listening to the citizens and feedback, I know that that's something that's been wanted. Dually, it does give a very visual readback to the drivers and people on the roadway. It does pick up bikes, which is fun too. But we want to use it smartly, right? We want to educate, we want to get compliance, we want to lower speeds. So our first test site was Gardner Road. We put it up on southbound side, so it does just get one direction. You can see it there. And in addition to speeds, it's capturing volume. So it's something that Public Works and the rest of the city is going to find of value. It can give us traffic counts. So quick question, and you can just holler out your answers. In an average day, single lane southbound Gardner, what would you guess our volume is in 24 hours? Single lane southbound Gardner,
4,000.
24 hours.
4,000.
Just an average day.
607.
607. So the average traffic volume on Gardner southbound single direction, 1,400 to 2,100, depending on the day of the week. So pretty good traffic flow. I think sometimes we're surprised by how much traffic's going through an area. This will give us better education on enforcement times. When is it going to be more advantageous for our officers to sit and run radar in an area based on actual data, not just what we might think or what we might feel, but data. And then these numbers can also be helpful to Public Works. How many vehicles do we have, traveling a roadway in a certain amount of time? What's the heavy hours of traffic flow? So a lot of good education can come back from it. We do find that there is good compliance, initially when they go up, and brings good education. There are those citizens that just are caught off guard. They're hustling their kids to school. They're running to pick up dinner before the next activity, whatever it might be. And that flashing sign will bring, them back into that compliance. We know that we don't want to put it up and it become a attractive nuisance to people of how fast can I go. So we do have a cutoff. Depending on the speed zone, we're not going to, can I get up to 80 on Gardner and have people get that feedback? No way. That's not what we want to encourage. So we can go in, I'm working with Sergeant Butler, and we can program it to, initially it'll flash a speed, then it's going to flash some strobe lights, low-level strobe, and then it'll flash a slow down. But we're not encouraging people to challenge to get the highest score up there. So again, it's a benefit to the citizens in educating and compliance and slowing down, getting our streets safer. It's education for us on where's good places and times and days of the week to enforce, and good education for public works on our street volumes.
Any questions for Chief?
Is that your sign on East Santiam, or is that county's? I just saw one. I passed by.
Oh, if
A
it went
sign
up
at
today, yes, it's up today, that's ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. Okay, so I saw the same one, but it flashed my how fast I was going, and then I was like, wait a minute, what's the speed limit right here? So I don't know if, how far away, because where I turn off on, I don't know how far away, the speed limit sign is from where that is. But
Yeah, and I don't
my
know
first thought
exactly
was
where-
my first thought is how fast am I supposed to be going on this? So I don't know if it's helpful if you don't know what the speed limit is on the road.
So,
Well, I know. So should it be on a speed limit sign? Is what I'm asking.
So it's the responsibility of the driver to know the speed of the road that they're traveling, and usually that's dictated by.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I'll say it's 45. But then when I was like, how fast am I supposed to be going on this? And the entire time I'm thinking, by the way, I was going 30.
It sounds like you were doing well.
But then there's a 25-mile-an-hour sign. So what I'm saying is the sign is between two signs.
Right. So when you get to the 25 is when it changes to the 25.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying that it might be something to think about to put the sign on a speed limit sign, so people know how fast you're supposed to be going. No?
So
You don't know
I
how
think some of the challenge, and possibly, so I think some of the challenge with that is right, we're not, you're coming from a 40 to a 25, but as you're approaching the 25, you're still in the 40. So that could be confusing as well, right? The speed's gonna be 25 when you hit the sign, but you're still in the 40, right? So I hear what you're saying. And where we had it on Gardner, they could actually see the speed sign and they could see the radar sign. So, yeah, the sign, we had a lot of different options. Some of them can display what your sign, above it, what your speed zone is, and then your speed that you're traveling. Most of our speeds in town are 25 because they're residential. There's houses that, so if they're not signed, they're 25 under the ORS, but I will take that under advisement. And we can also put other feedback on there, so it could flash a sign and then say speed zone 25. And maybe that's what we can look at doing.
The speed right there is 45. That is what I'm saying.
It's dropped to 40.
Okay, well, it's not 25 there. What I'm saying is, when I saw the sign, the only thing that I could think of is how fast am I supposed to be going?
But next time you'll know, right?
I guess now I will, but the person who's driving might not. By the sign, never mind.
I think that the tool is education, and so I think you now know, you question, so I think that it's not necessarily.
Bringing awareness.
Yeah, so. Any other questions for Chief? Because I've got a couple more things, and then I'll be done. Okay, so Barry is here, so if you have any additional questions on this, we'll ask him to come up. But I asked for a little bit more definitiveness on when the puddles are going to be addressed at 3rd and Ida, as well as Jetters and Ida. So at the 3rd and Ida, Canyon Contracting has been engaged to resolve the issue. They'll be regrading the street edge to the west and ensuring proper drainage to the nearest catch basin. The work will be scheduled at the next available opportunity when Canyon Contracting is in Stayton, and there is expected to be a full day of temperatures above 60 degrees. It's anticipated that the repairs will be completed within 3 months, with the work itself taking approximately 2 to 3 days once initiated. On the Jetters Way and Ida, survey analysis has determined that the existing catch basin is approximately 2 inches above grade, with the surrounding area sloping away from it. A planned capital improvement project within the current CIP horizon includes the installation of a new sewer force main along Jetters Way, which will require roadway reconstruction in the vicinity of this stormwater issue. Given this, Public Works is hesitant to invest significant capital in a permanent repair that may be impacted by the forthcoming project. Instead, Public Works is evaluating minimal yet effective interim measures to mitigate the problem. Discussions have been initiated with Canyon Contracting to determine a feasible short-term solution. Once a solution is identified, Public Works will communicate that with me, and I will communicate that with council. We anticipate finalizing our approach within the next 4 weeks when Canyon returns from working in Eastern Oregon. So just wanted to give you guys an update, because I have been told, well, when the weather is better, when the weather is better. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Because the weather's been nice a few days and we haven't had it fixed. So got a little bit more definition, but Barry is here to answer questions that you might have based on that. That's all I've got.
Oh, I was waiting for an update on Lake Quigley.
Do you want to give an update on Lake Quigley? Barry said he can.
Thanks, Barry.
Good evening, Council. Barry Buchanan, Public Works Interim Director. Lake Quigley, I'm sure I'm not allowed to call it that, but please excuse me. The day-to-day operations, people have been working on that puddle, as it's called, currently by filling up with gravel and packing it in, so that in actual fact we get rid of that major obstacle in the road, I'm going to call it. Unfortunately, because of the way the road is actually formed at the moment, that repair, that temporary repair, is in actual fact not satisfactory. It just keeps washing out, and in actual fact we've had washouts every time it rains. The reason that the occurrence of this particular puddle and others on other streets like it is that we have had residents putting gravel and constructing their own parking areas adjacent to the roadway. So the roadway should in actual fact be sloped like this out to the curbs. Because the residents are actually parking and looking after their own parking on the side of the road, they've piled gravel up, so we've actually turned the road this way. And we have a centre valley in the road rather than a crown in the road. So what we have to do as Public Works is re-crown that road. And that work is in actual fact being looked at. We're actually talking to Canyon as well to look at re-crowning the roads. There is three, I believe there are three in actual fact locations that we're looking at this point in time, that they'll come in, re-crown the roads, gravel the roads out, and maintain the roads in a temporary gravel state until such time as we have funds available to come in and retop the road with asphalt. The intended timescale as far as that's concerned, again, as Julia just said, Canyon are actually out of the area at the moment. The regrading will take place when we do the general gravelling and gravel maintenance on the roadways, which is going into early summer. The immediate repairs are being done on a day-to-day basis so that we can actually keep the road in the best condition we can at this particular time. And we will be looking at the maintenance change over the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Barry. Can we just convey that information to Pam, please?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
I'll give you a write-up on it.
Great. That'd be awesome. All right. An opportunity for communication from mayor and council. Council have anything? It's getting closer to the hour.
Mr. Mayor,
Council Ort.
I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for the road updates. It's really helpful.
Councilor Sims.
So I had some thoughts on something really quick, but I would really like to do some discussions with Sandy and Water Control District about Wilderness Park again. Since the spring's coming up, the good weather, people would like to walk back there. I would love it if mayor, maybe a councilor or two got together with Brent along with Julia, and I would just like to bring that up again and maybe see what we could do, what kind of agreement we could come to. Hopefully something that we could afford to do with our budget. But with the weather, I think a lot of people are going to be starting to bring that up again and walking back on Wilderness Park.
Mayor.
Councilor Carey.
Julia, thank you for follow-up on that Fern Ridge obstruction-ish. Also, Chief, I went on a ride-along this last week, and I really enjoyed riding with Officer Leonard. Spent 5 hours with him. Very transparent. He did a very professional job. Questions I asked, he had very detailed answers, and so I just really encourage anybody else on the council, if you've not done it, to take a ride-along with our state and police officers.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Council Ort.
can we have, sorry,
3 minutes.
Time's up.
Can we have just a little bit of update on these adventure walks?
Do you want to? Okay. Well, that's wonderful because I can talk about how amazing Melanie is. Melanie, amazing Melanie, created this adventure log. It is this is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and I love it. Counselors got 10 each for you to share, and the idea is that over spring break, parents and their children can stay in town and do fun things. So the front is a traditional fun things to do. There's some cute little jokes. On the inside, there's some specific events that Melanie, again, amazing, wonderful Melanie, has coordinated, planned, as well as just sort of on the coattails. See, this will teach you to not ever just speak up. One is going to the library with the things that they've already planned, touring the state and police department. There's a couple of dates available for that. Touring the wastewater treatment plant, and there's a couple of dates available for that. And meeting a counselor. Just visiting the state and library at any time. We also are asking them to review a local business, going someplace, telling us their thoughts, telling us the number of stars. We also have a free, and we're hoping it's not abused, but we added on there that it's valid for one person per time, total, so not per ticket, for a free swim. The pool has some special events and sessions planned during spring break, so we are encouraging people to use the pool during spring break with a free coupon to get in. Then they are supposed to turn it in, and they will get an amazing prize that I've seen. It's really cool. I'm not going to tell you what it is. And yeah, so it's a fun thing to encourage kids to, and parents, just to know that there's a lot of cool and fun things to do in Stayton. You don't have to leave to have fun with your family. And Melanie is amazing.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, the only thing I want to do is highlight some good work by Santiam Integration Team. I think 2 weeks ago, they previewed the movie No Place to Grow Old, and I attended that meeting and that movie, and I will tell you that it was enlightening at the least. Basically, the movie is about homelessness and the people that are my age and above, and I won't give my age out, but really made a comparison about the struggles about the older folks that are homeless. And so just pointing that out there, it did soften the stereotype a little bit, if you will. Brought some revelation about really some of the struggles that I wasn't really aware of. So props to the San Diego immigration folks for doing that, and Kim Dwyer. And if you have an opportunity to watch it, I recommend watching it. So that's my 2 cents on that. And I lastly want to say thanks for Julia for some collaboration with myself and her on some of the issues we have facing right now. The Detroit drawdown issue, we're working on a couple things. We have some contact now with Representative Bynum's office, so more to come on that, but we are working towards some interaction and some communication. And with that, I think we'll call it a night, and we will adjourn.